Hey, fifth grade, it's Sarah Campbell. So we are just going to continue working on our beautiful um, Leonardo da Vinci painting called the Mona Lisa. I'm gonna keep teaching you a couple more tricks, and we're gonna keep honing it down. We're gonna work on shading a little bit, but mainly we're gonna try to find just making sure that we have as close to what she is as possible. We're just trying to find all of the right lines and do it in a way where we're not just using one technique, we're also using everything in our wheelhouse that we can use. Okay, so where to start? So the very first thing that I want to do, that I want to show you guys, is a couple techniques for just making sure that your eye is kind of refreshed. So you've had a week, and now you can look at your drawing again, and you can see right away if there's anything you don't like. So even if you're like an hour into your drawing, 20 minutes, whenever you start to feel a little stagnant, just get up and take a step back and look at it again. Okay, so what I see is that maybe her hair goes down just a little bit more. Okay. I'm just going to put some actual lines in here, or not just straight lines, but I'm gonna start to add some curved lines. I know that last week we were doing a whole lot of straight lines. So now's the time to find a little bit more curves, since we've gotten things. This looks pretty good to me. Okay, so her hand to me is definitely not quite right. So I'm gonna kind of go back and just maybe get an idea of where that finger is. I don't want to just draw in a bunch of fingers, but just maybe getting this is a really defined shape. I really like this shape, so we're just going to kind of look for that shape. We can hone it later. What you can see is that I'm not actually using an eraser. This is something you guys can, of course, use, but I don't tend to use a lot of erasers until towards the end, just because this entire drawing I think of as making big mistakes and then just honing those mistakes down, whittling them down until it looks how I want it to look. So like I was saying last week, it can be really cathartic if you can get over that idea of, oh, I keep messing this up, it just doesn't look right. Every artist, everywhere, all the time, with each drawing or painting that they're gonna do, is always going to have that moment where they're like, oh, this doesn't look right. But you have to overcome that and know you're just midway through. It's just not going to look right while it's midway through. If you think of it as just almost like a meditation where you're honing your mistakes, I find that that's a lot, it's just healthier for your soul. So like right here with her hand, this thumb is way too long, and it's not the right shape. Right here is not this shape. So I'm just gonna take it up, find a little bit more of that shape. I'm not gonna bother trying to get rid of that. And then I'm just gonna maybe find just the outline of these folds. I think that's very interesting. Okay, and now we're gonna look at this other hand. So this other hand looks definitely wonky. I know it's not the right shape, but it's similar in a way. So here's what I'm gonna do. What I see is the hand kind of going up, and then it angles back down. So mine is just angled straight over or even up. So I'm just gonna angle it down I'm gonna make a little arm sleeve, angled this just a little bit back up. Yeah, ooh, I like that. I like that a lot better. Okay, so, okay, that looks better. Oh, and I would love to see some of yours if you want to maybe ask your teacher to take some pictures and send them to me. All right, so, okay, this goes kind of out and down. Don't really want to worry about those fingers that much. Okay, I know that's not quite right, but not a big deal. Okay, so here's what I want to do now. Now that we've just spent a little bit of time just fixing some of the very minor things that you see fixing, you guys can keep working on this. I'm going to just keep refining this, her eye. I'm going to move it over here just a little bit more. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to just go ahead and put in some darks. We have light already because it's a white piece of paper, obviously. So we're just going to find the darks in our painting. The thing about art in this time period, when Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were doing art, was their idea of composition was hugely based on light and dark. So what is composition? Composition is how you set up your painting. They chose, or Leonardo da Vinci chose to put her almost dead center. So that is a choice, and that is setting up your composition. But what draws your eye in is that she's here, but there's all of this energy bouncing around. You've got this angle, these nice lines across here, and then a straight line across here. Michelangelo was a huge supporter of, and I'm gonna maybe forget this, but like kind of the divine triangle, or the divine, your teacher probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's like a mathematical equation that looks almost like this. It's like a spiral within a triangle. And it's also separated by thirds. So in paintings from way back when, you'll often see paintings that have like, they're very defined by like thirds. One here, one here, one here. See how it breaks down? There's this beautiful sky, the beautiful landscape, and the dark. Okay, so let's find this dark. Beautiful composition. He pulls in the dark just to make your eye not forget about this area. So you're not just looking at her face. You're literally, your eye is meant to be bouncing around this entire painting. And that's why it's interesting. And that's why Michelangelo and Da Vinci were so inspiring. They just really, besides being technically amazing at their, at how they could paint, they also chose their composition extremely wisely. They took a lot of time. They did a lot of like sketches beforehand to make sure that this was what they wanted to do. Okay, so I'm just going to take my graphite pencil, or whatever pencil you have, and turn it to the side, and I'm just going to block in some of this. See how there's all of this dark? Like, I don't want to limit myself by creating this like sharp line right here necessarily. Hopefully that makes sense. At the end, I'll probably put in a shade of where this arm is. See how you can really see her arm here just barely. But then over here, there's almost like maybe it's her hair or it's this drape that's going over, but it's such it's such a light kind of variation that I just want to block out the entire thing. If I put that in too early, you'll often do the wrong line in the wrong spot because you need to keep making those big, make your big lines and then hone them smaller. And that gets a little too small. So we're gonna leave that to the end. So I don't push down. I don't try to get it as dark right away. I'm just lightly coming up here and finding these lines. We're gonna darken it in layers. Now I darken it in layers because, well, it just looks better. Layers are just very important. See this? I just don't think, I want this a little bit smaller, thinner. Maybe go down just a little. Okay. Okay. And then her hair's kind of dark too. So I don't want to go too dark with the hair. Okay. And look, even into her face, there's some shadow, and I'm just gonna, again, do it the same. One of the best techniques I'll tell you that you can use is to squint at this. See, when you squint, you can't see her hairline. You see the hair, but it blends in with this forehead. So make sure you get kind of that forehead, and then even her cheek right here, it really kind of goes out. It's the same coloring, the same value. So we're just gonna go down and keep on doing it. So your pencil should do that no problem. So this is quite a lot, like it has some highlights. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go back in there either this time, maybe next time, and do towards the end and do some highlights. But this highlight right here is probably still a little bit darker than what you suspect. See how it might even be lighter than this hand? So it probably is this color, if that makes any sense. If you isolate this, what's brighter, this or this? I'm not sure yet, but we'll get there. It might be close to the same, but definitely this area is probably one of the very brightest, and then right on her forehead too, and this little speck right there. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this darker. So I'm going over it again. It's amazing what you can do with just a piece of paper and a nice pencil. And in some of these places, I'm gonna shade it 2 or 3 times. Like if you shade it once, it'll be kind of this color. If you go over it 2 or 3 times, it'll be a little bit darker. I'm just gonna, any little forms, I'm just gonna go ahead and find, and if they're super dark, I'm just gonna color them super dark. See this beautiful like bell shape? Let's go ahead and get that in. So it's, again, it's really all about finding those shapes, breaking down everything into the abstract. Okay. Look at this little, I don't know if you can see this as well. It's like a lightning bolt almost. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna do a very light over the hand. The hand's one of the darkest, or one of the lightest again. Ooh. Okay. All right, so really light. Okay. Hopefully you guys can still see me pretty well. Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. So while we're taking a quick break, what I'm going to show you is the mirror. I have this old crappy mirror. I think my husband found it in some old house. And I mean, like, you can barely see yourself in it, but I keep it just so that for art. So I take it and I look at my drawing through my mirror. I don't know if you'll be able to see this at all, but I look at it and it really, I compare it to this image. It will show me what is wrong with it. It's absolutely amazing. It's a great trick. Okay. So it's looking pretty good. Definitely some things in the face are off. I can tell that her mouth is not where it's supposed to be. Maybe the angle of her hair is not quite right. I'm not too worried about that. Okay. Obviously the hand's not right, but I know that. Okay. Yeah, looks good. All right, good to know. Let's keep at it. Okay, so right now, since we're doing black and white here, let's go ahead and what we're doing is finding values. See, look, my fingers are getting messy. Okay, you can see my messy studio here. I've got a little of everything. I think it's really good to have a little place where you can just allow yourself to be a little bit messy. And that's my studio. Okay. So what we're gonna do is kind of find that line. Look at her eyes. That's a great, see if I run my finger all the way across here in a straight line. Here's an idea. I know that the tree line is just above her eyes. So I am going to draw the trees right above there. And I'm gonna color them kind of the right value. So I'm looking for that value. And then maybe color that a little bit darker. Okay, so now I'm gonna go down here to her neck. So I know that stream that looks, I don't know, I feel like everything looks like the state of Idaho, or like a boot or something. You can barely see that difference, but I'm gonna do it pretty light. Okay, so here, across here. Gosh, that almost looks like a volcano to me. It's so interesting. I wonder what he was thinking. Okay. And let's go ahead. We know that this is pretty dark, so we're just gonna, okay. So now that we've colored this part in, see how I'm losing definition between this and this? We know that this is at least a shade darker than this, right? And this, now that we have colored in this, we know that this shade is a shade darker than this. Does that make sense? So now we're gonna have to shade this in even darker. It's really dark. Okay, I'm pretty much gonna shade this in very dark too, but it's a little bit lighter. Ooh, this is a nice dark space right here. Ooh, I don't know what that looks like. What do you guys think? It's kind of like a V, but it has this wonky shape right here. maybe like a math equation, pi upside down or something. Let's see. Okay. Let's go ahead and color that in pretty dark. We're gonna do some of those harder lines in a little bit, towards the end. All right, I'm gonna take my pencil sharpener. You can do this with scissors. Another way to do your pencil, to sharpen your pencil, is just take a piece of paper. Take this Valentine's Day card my son made, and you can go like this, and this will sharpen your pencil. That's one of my favorite ways to sharpen pencils, especially graphite pencils or like a charcoal. Okay, I'm gonna show you something that I always do with graphite pencils. And maybe if I train you guys now, you won't do it. I get charcoal everywhere because I'm just setting my hand on it, on the painting, and I have not gotten out of that habit ever. So a lot of people try to really just make sure they don't touch their painting with their hand. It's just a lazy habit of mine that I have not figured out how to overcome, even in adulthood. So I'm still working on that. Okay, so we're gonna find smaller shapes. So now we found these great big beautiful shapes, and we're just honing it down a little bit more. This is like utterly black. Let's go ahead and just find that utterly black. You guys just keep working on that. I'm pressing down, and I'm using a little bit more of those hard edges, the sharp edges. But the side is the best. I don't want to spend all of my time doing that though, so I'm gonna press a little more firm. See how we're doing on time.